I'm sure I just had a ton of liberals come over here, head exploding. Finally, someone's going to call out Donald J. Trump. Not so fast, my friends. He is playing a game of 3D chess that most can't even fathom. It all starts here. Should always start here. The Great Republic of the United States of America. And why is Trump having it surrounded? Just look at what he's announced. Because that's what he's looking at. Do you know why? Very strategic reasons why. Again, while everybody's getting all upset about all these little agendas and how dare he, because even the mainstream media can't figure it out, right? Mainstream media. Couldn't believe I read this on NBC News. Pressure on China and pure trolling. Why Trump is pushing an expansionist agenda. Now, just hold on one red hot minute. Expansionist? Weren't you the folks calling him an isolationist? Consul on foreign relations, isolationist. New York Times, isolationist. Well, now everything's changed, hasn't it? And it all comes back to the map. 4 chess moves. And I'm going to explain everything you need to know about each one of them. It doesn't take that long. But you see, the liberal mind can't process this. It can't absorb what's happening here because it goes against everything they thought of Trump. But hasn't he done that time and time again? You can take your Jack Smith cases, you can take your hush money cases, and let it all go away. Because it's all just a distraction. As to why this move isn't about allowing our adversaries closer. It's not about surrounding the U.S. with adversarial troops, as some who tuned in here probably think I was going to talk about. Oh, no. How about surrounding it with our own resources, our own military? And just imagine if you look at this another way. Exactly how large he is working on making the great Republic of the United States of America. That would be a rather difficult landmass to attack, wouldn't it? So let's go into the details here in just 1 minute. Some people wake up on Sunday morning, they go to church. Some people wake up, they go to the bar. Some people jump on their bike. Some people just take a trip. We here at Restricted Republic, we don't get those opportunities at all times, but it's because we love what we do. We work on details, references, and major stories, period. If you like what I'm doing here, I need you to subscribe. For those of you that have joined as members here to support me on this platform, thank you so much. It's the only way the news comes out. I've told you time and time again, I don't use advertisers. I don't use sponsors. I want this message to be mine. No one else to be in control of it. And that wasn't enough for me and Lisa. Not nearly enough. We wanted to provide you more information. We wanted to give you one source of news. No commercials, no interruptions, just the stories that matter. Referenced and researched at all times so you can go ahead and fact check us. And we did it on RestrictedRepublic.com during the most dire time this country has almost ever faced, in the middle of the pandemic. And why? Because there's information we wanted to bring to you that everybody else said, nah, nope. Now you can, but back then you couldn't. And what makes you think for a red hot minute they're not going to continue that trend? Oh, because Mark Zuckerberg changed his coat? Give me a break. These guys don't change. They manipulate. They adjust like chameleons. But Restricted Republic, it's only facts. It's only high-level stories. You can turn off all your notifications, but I need you to go there and subscribe today. It's your way of supporting me, supporting Lisa for everything we bring. All the stories there on every platform we post, all commercials, interruptions removed, on top of the daily exclusive content. It is truly a platform that so many thousands have gone and joined, and you're about to find out why by simply typing in your browser, restrictedrepublic.com. Monthly or annual subscriptions available. You can cancel anytime. That's how confident we are in our platform. 14 days for free to check it out. I need you to get there today. But right now, we're going to get back to this story. So let's start here, the Gulf of Mexico. That Trump wants to make, well, the Gulf of America. Some people mocking him, but don't mock him so quickly. There's a reason for that. There could be many reasons. Will we know everything in the mind of Donald J. Trump? Of course not. But strategic nonetheless.
Where he's closing everything up, essentially, it's ours. We're going to be changing sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate. It's appropriate. And Mexico has to stop allowing millions of people to pour into our country. They can stop them. And we're going to put very serious tariffs on Mexico. And
oh, again, just the beginning of the story. Control the Gulf of Mexico. Strategic and defense purposes, of course. But there's other purposes. You see the ways to get close to America, and we have enemies that are growing stronger daily. Russia and China, to be more particular. And for those of you that thought that Trump was in bed with Russia, by the time this broadcast is over, you'll realize that many of the maneuvers he's making are in opposition to Russia. There's secrets in the Arctic, aren't there? I know many of you will spin off on many stories involving that, and I'm not saying you're not necessarily right. But there's something in that region that there is now access to, and we're going to get there quickly as we move through the story. But right now we're going to stay in the Gulf of Mexico. Who owns the Gulf of Mexico, and can Trump rename it? The short answer, yes, he can. While ownership is up for debate, it's true, and this was on The Independent, that the U.S. has claimed control over much of the Gulf. The UN Convention of the Law of the Sea determined that the U.S. territorial waters expand for 12 nautical miles from its shores, and the U.S. federal government manages the seas and the submerged part of the outer continental shelf as well, giving us majority hold, at least on the important little bits. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is now planning to introduce legislation to change the name of the Gulf on Thursday. Nobody could tell us what we call it. Trump wants it further. He wants everyone calling it the Gulf of America. The American people are footing the bill to protect and secure the maritime waters for commerce to be conducted. He's assuring that our enemy, and through many of these stories, can't cut off our trade routes, and we are paying fair and adequate rates for that trade to come through. It's especially relevant in the Panama Canal. Our U.S. Armed Forces protect the area from any military threats from foreign countries. I showed you the lines. We drew them. Got to protect against that. Just imagine how close they can get to our coastline. Go back to the main story here. It's our Gulf. The rightful name is the Gulf of America, and it's what the entire world should refer to it as. That coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene. While the U.S. could pass legislation requiring a name change in the U.S., there would be nothing forcing other nations to adhere to that decision. But frankly, do we give a damn? I don't. I'll call it what I want it to be called. But there's something else. A potential little backstab. Biden prevented drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. He did not prevent drilling in the Gulf of America, now did he? Ooh, never thought about that little plot twist. I'm sure some of you probably did. As Biden's presidency draws to a close, environmental and climate groups have advocated for him to withdraw areas off the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And what does Trump say? Drill, baby, drill. What a novel little thought, or novel, depending on how you want to state it, as to how to bypass the rules quickly. Now, could Trump, by executive order, reverse Biden on that? Of course he can, and that's more than likely what he will do, but there's different reasons again, because we have to keep following the map. Why does Trump want the Panama Canal? Here's what to know on the New York Times. Jimmy Carter selling it to the government of Panama for $1 as long as it remained neutral. Well, that really hasn't happened, this permanent neutrality that he demanded. And Trump knows that. Now there's debate and arguments over how China's influence is there. China's soldiers are not, as Mr. Trump has claimed, operating in the Panama Canal. I'll show you. Even the fact checkers of Newsweek stating that is absolutely false. Well, Chinese companies manage 2 of the 5 ports near the Panama Canal. So Chinese companies, how does China operate? Any company is beholden to the government, ultimately the PLA, the People's Liberation Army of China. So if the government tells you, I'm taking over your business, you have no choice. The Panama Canal is not a really wide canal now, is it? And so you're controlling, as they state, 2 of the 5 ports. How difficult would it be for China to demand those companies turn over control of their areas to the PLA, and how quickly could they shut down the Panama Canal? If you're going to secure the continental borders of the U.S. and assure fair and adequate trade rates, you have no choice but to take over the Panama Canal, which we built and lost American lives in building because the French couldn't do it. Now, could they? But we could. So there's legitimate reasons why Trump wants this. And if you don't believe Trump, maybe you'll believe our military command, who went in great detail about talking about the risks, not only in intelligence gathering, because China now has the ability, and we've shown they do this in Argentina, everywhere else, to monitor every single ship that is headed towards the U.S., every single container that comes through. Do we want China having that power over the U.S.? My answer is a staunch no, and our own military has told the government that. So this isn't up for debate, in my opinion. Gordon Chang to Newsmax: China could shut down the Panama Canal at will. China's port facilities are at both ends of the canal. And when General Laura Richardson took a helicopter ride over the canal zone, this was in the middle of 2022, she said she looked down and saw all of these dual-use facilities. Oh, they're just cargo ports. Not so much. At a time of war, they can make the canal totally useless. Does Trump believe that China and Russia could be preparing to attack the U.S.? Well, you always have to consider that, and you have to protect against it at all times. They say that we have a 2-ocean navy, and we do, the Atlantic and the Pacific. Well, you'd have 2 separate navies if the canal shut down. Much easier to attack a navy that is divided than one that is united now, isn't it? Strategy behind all of this. He's playing a tougher game of chess, a more deep game of chess than anyone's giving him credit for. But what about Canada? That makes no sense. It absolutely makes sense. Will that one happen? This will be the toughest. But why? Well, he's told you. Why we are losing $200 billion a year. Trump unveils plan to acquire Canada. Justin Trudeau, that we no longer care about, responds. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday said he will use economic force to make Canada part of the United States, a comment that attracted sharp reaction from then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. When asked if he would use military force to acquire or annex Canada, Trump told reporters in Mar-a-Lago, "No, I'll be using economic force because Canada and the United States, that would be something. You can get rid of that artificially drawn line and take a look at what it looks like, and it would be also much better for national security." Now therein lies more of the truth of the issue. If you're defending against Russia and China, we've gone through the elements of the Panama Canal and Gulf of Mexico. It would only make sense that our northernmost border, if expanded, would allow us greater range of military defense against any incoming attack from Russia or China. Again, fairly simple, isn't it? If you look at the map also, you'd see how close Russia is.
No right. No right. But why are we supporting a country, 200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function. if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. You know,
So a country that's only being held together by us allowing them that level of economic stability, wouldn't that money be better spent at home rather than destroy the people of Canada when you have to bring more money back because our debt is out of control? So you have to bring in income, cash in, cash out. And why are we allowing cash out to a country that we ultimately have to support, even in order for it to defend itself? If Russia went on a full-scale attack against Canada without the defenses of, if you want to say NATO, which I don't want to say, it would fall. And then Russia is at your northernmost border. I'm sure all those folks up on the north border wouldn't like to see that very much now, would they? Case in point, Ukraine and Russia. That's what happens when they get close. And just by taking a quick look of Canada and Russia, there's not a huge separation here, but you see there's something in the middle that's a little bit more relevant right now. Some of you will know what that circle represents. Probably not exactly accurate, of course not, but it is the Arctic Circle. And in comes Greenland. This water used to be very difficult to traverse. Now some will say, of course, we're going to go down the climate route. I'm not going the climate route, but what has changed in the climate has allowed for those waters, again, from Russia to Alaska and into Canada, to now be able to be moved through. That wouldn't make me feel really warm and fuzzy at night, now would it? No, if that channel is now open and the ability for a military to tread down into Canada on a potential attack, well, that would make me a little bit nervous as President of the United States, and I'd want to reinforce against that. But Trump's crazy. Everybody's saying he is. I'm hoping you're starting to see why he's playing a different game of chess than the mainstream media even has the capacity to be able to comprehend. Greenland is a strategically, valuable Danish territory indispensable to the safety of the United States. Except that wasn't Donald Trump who said that. That was President Truman who stated that. He gave a serious look to the possibility of sealing what would have been the largest American land expansion behind a decision decades earlier to make the Louisiana Purchase. So Trump, this isn't a new idea for him, is it? But they'll forget about history, won't they? Because history, well, it doesn't serve their purpose. The agenda of making Trump look like an idiot, crazy, psychotic. No, he's not. Everything is strategy. We can go to historians and learn a little bit more. Buying Greenland isn't a new idea. Though Danish leaders today imply that the idea of selling sovereignty is out of touch and this will never happen, don't be so sure, because history says otherwise. In 1845, the King of Denmark accepted millions of rupees from the East India Company to transfer control over multiple Danish hubs in India, but that wasn't it. Now, how do we end up at the U.S. Virgin Islands? Well, in 1917, we paid $25 million to Denmark, and they gave it over. So don't think Greenland is really a long shot. As a matter of fact, it's now showing they're opening conversations. I'll get there in a minute. As Secretary of State John Quincy Adams arranged debt relief for Spain in exchange for Florida. Secretary of State William Seward acquired Alaska. What Mr. Trump proposes is consistent with an American tradition. And what better president to carry out expansionism, to make our territory larger, to give us more resources. But resources is the key now, isn't it? I've told you in the past about rare earth minerals, elements that we don't have access to, and China controls the supply, and without them, your superconductors and all this infrastructure you want to build is all but impossible, and you'll have to continue to purchase from China important intelligence apparatus that, well, we just don't have the resources to be able to build. We have the ability. Brookings, the Greenland Gold Rush, promise and pitfalls of Greenland's energy and mineral resources. As the Arctic Sea continues to melt due to, I know, leaving it there. Greenland's mineral and energy resources, including iron ore, lead, zinc, diamonds, gold, and rare earth elements. Uranium and oil are becoming more accessible, and you want to give that to Russia? Or give them the ability to have it? Or would you rather defend a territory that has those resources? Who's already planning on ways to extract these resources? It's essential to Greenland's plan, but they don't have the infrastructure to do so. America would. American ingenuity. Imagine the companies that will support this from Donald J. Trump. They'll make billions. So again, don't think these are far-fetched ideas. Their reality is far closer than most realize. And how and why are we concerned? And what is Trump looking at? Because if you want to follow these maps, and take this one over just a little bit, you see here, and I'm going to go sketch and do a little back and forth for you. Here's Russia. It's really tough to get any ships down through a layer of ice now, isn't it? Well, that was then. And this is now. Allowing a much easier access point all the way through to, oh, that's right, that's Canada or Alaska or around to our coast. So you see, strategically, by controlling this territory, it is also a military strategy, because Russia now also has access to more of these resources they're looking for. So why not take over this entire territory? Man, that would make things miserable for Russia. Wait, Russia, Trump's in bed with them. Are you so sure? Now. I know, nobody presents it this way to you. The Arctic region makes it look a whole lot different now, doesn't it? Now, where is Trump playing this chess game? With Russia, with easy access to the Arctic, with easy access to Greenland, with now accessible access to Canada. And what's Trump trying to do? This makes it really clear. That, my friends, is called a nice blockade. It's that easy. It's a different game of chess. It's that easy. It's a different game of chess. And before you say it will never happen, Greenland's prime minister comes out and says, we are ready to talk. And then, according to Axios, after Donald J. Trump Jr. visits Greenland also, Denmark sent Trump team private messages on Greenland. Everyone's ready to come to the table, because do you believe for a minute Greenland isn't concerned about a potential attack as they are now wide open to it? Of course not. And who comes in for the rescue? You see, it's all a trap set by Trump, a strategic plan. And we haven't seen strategy outside of, it appears, demolished the United States of America over the last 4 years. Well, now we're entering into a different strategy, and we will be here to analyze every single piece of it for you. I work hard to make these very difficult concepts, what they want you to believe is a difficult concept, appear a little bit more black and white. Follow the bouncing ball and you'll always find the answer, and I will be the one here daily to provide it to you. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.